Who is it going to be? Reif to the bottom. Eric Johnson Jr. to the top. Give it to Tanner Reif.
All right, we are here with Eric Johnson Jr. and Tanner Reif, the top two finishers in the most recent ARCA Menards Series West event at Tucson Speedway. That was arguably one of the best finishes the West Series has produced probably since last year. But I would like to hear from both of you your perspectives on what led up to that. So, Tanner, as the winner, you get to go first.
Oh boy.
Walk me through those first 145 laps and tell us how we got to that finish.
Well, first off, I want to say you're very correct. I think we're having some of the best racing that we've had all year. Starting off, we knew that the race would be long. We knew we had one set of tires. We wanted to be really smart, wanted to save our stuff. For the first 75 laps, I really just paced myself off the 19 car. I just cruised it and kept it as slow as I could without, letting the 13 car or the 3 car getting by us. He was setting the pace there the first 75 laps, and then the first yellow came out. Let us cool down, and then from there it was making a couple spots in the restart, staying up at the front group until it was time to, with around 30 laps to go, start putting a little bit more heat on the tires, pushing the car about 80%. Until about 10 laps to go, I got the all clear from my spotter saying, hey, it's just you and the 19 car, go get him, man. And then about 3 laps later, I heard, hey, car behind you, 5 cars on your tail. I was like, oh, I thought you said we were clear 10-4. So after that, it was, just making sure I could keep my car in my lane and stay low. That was my favorite thing, was staying low.
All right, Eric, how did you get to that 3-wide situation coming to the white flag? Walk us through your race at that point.
Yeah, I was just going in blind, right? Never been to Tucson, and all I could really do leading up to it was watch a lot of film and had to heavily lean on some resources, one being my crew chief, Dust Nash. Jerry Pitts was putting in a lot of his feedback. Cole Raz, one of their drivers, he was a big help of mine. When we started, I don't think anybody really knew what you had to do to have what you needed at the end. Everyone was just kind of pacing each other. If it wasn't for my spotter relaying me literally every lap that I was doing what he needed, I would have thought I was just junk. Coming to the end, once I got out in the lead, I really focused on just getting back into my rhythm. Crossed the line the first time to lead a lap, checked the box, had that thought for a moment, and then it was just, okay, right back to doing what I got to do to save here so I have something in the end. And those guys caught me a little bit at the end. I had to let them go, just hoping that if I had an opportunity, I was saving just to have a little bit to push with, and then, the rest was history.
Now I feel like it's time to pull up the final couple of laps from that race and let you guys kind of walk us through what you were experiencing and how things were going in the race.
That 3-wide moment there with Tanner and Todd, that was a full clinch moment.
It really was for me just playing a catfish game and staying on the bottom. I really had a lot of grip down there, and that's where I try to stay.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
I mean, at this point, our car had quit turning on the bottom. That right front told me, I was done. And so up here, the lap before, I was so sideways going in 3-wide, I knew I just had to hang on. I honestly thought the 19 was closer to the 13 at the time, thinking that he was going to go in there and get him sideways. So I was just hoping I wasn't going to become a catch net going in there and running up top.
Definitely not everybody had a lot of grip there. We were all being very, very patient on the throttle. Because as someone who probably had the most amount of tires on their cars, I was maybe 40% throttle, and they would just start spinning on exit.
Yeah, I remember right here, it was like my option was, okay, do I push the 19? And I was like, oh, well, that ain't gonna help me. So I set it in up here, all the marbles and stuff from those lappers. Exactly, I was like, I gotta go around him, but man, was it sideways. So this next time around, I was like, I can't turn on the bottom. There's no grip on the top. I don't know where I'm gonna need to be, so let's just try to split it. But at the same time, like I said, I didn't want to be their catch net down there thinking they were going to get into one another.
I have to ask, for Tanner, were you surprised that Eric was to your outside on the last lap?
Yeah, I actually congratulated him. I said, Eric, I was hearing outside. He didn't tell me, my spotter was not telling me who it was, just outside, because it transferred. You'll see right around here is when it transfers from the 19 to the 5 car. I didn't know the 5 car had cleared him on the outside and rolled to my outside of my door, so I thought it was still the 19 car. Either way, it's outside, so I was racing him the same way, but I was really surprised. I was like, did you get second, Eric? He's like, yeah. I was like, dude, what? I didn't even know you were pushing me with like 5 to go. I didn't even know your car was still in the race. and then now you're racing for the finish. If we were just a couple more laps, it would be really crazy racing.
For Eric, were you surprised at just how fast you were when you went up top?
I mean, I wasn't shocked just because in practice, you know, something my crew chief really pushed was he just wanted me, once I got comfortable, to just start looking around. And that way I had some options, thinking I'd use it maybe on a restart or something. And, you know, the top was something I found in practice that was quite comfortable. And I just ran up there for about 5 laps. But in those 5 laps, the rear tires were just, you know, as heated as they could get, and I lost all grip. So I knew I couldn't go up there for a long time. I can only use it like in the back of my head if I needed it. And so when we moved up there, I was hoping it would stick. It got a lot sketchier than I thought it would, but you know, I told my crew chief and my spotter, I said, I just don't want to leave anything on the table. So, you know, literally coming to the white flag, my spotter was just in my ear screaming, nothing left on the table, get everything you can. Spotting was non-existent at that point. He was just my cheerleader and friend, and yeah, I was surprised it stuck for as long as it did.
I think my favorite part of this entire thing was the fact that the two of you met on the front stretch and were congratulating each other. 2 young race car drivers going for everything that they're worth, and you're happy for each other. Tell me about that and the mutual respect.
Not too long ago, Eric was my teammate. There were a couple times in the BMR cars we would be teammates, and you know, I think Eric, you know, though being older, has a true passion for the sport, and you know, that's something that's, you know, harder to find than you might think. And you know, his talent is showing improvement. He's definitely becoming a wheelman, and you know, he's kicking people's butts who've been doing this for way longer than him. So that's good to, you know, he's gonna be a good driver to race against all year. I'm gonna have to, hopefully, I gotta stay on top of myself so he doesn't get in front of me.
No, it was just, first of all, I appreciate it, Tanner. And it's just cool with guys like Tanner. And like I said, getting up there racing with Huddleston. And I was a fan of the sport much longer than I've been a driver. And just starting, you know, about 5 years ago, there was a long period of my life where I never thought I'd get the chance to do this, let alone being up there racing with those guys. And so when I was at BMR, guys like Tanner, Jack Wood, teammates that came through there were a major help to my learning curve, speeding that up. So I knew, you know, when we went out on this transition to race with Jerry Pitts, you know, we were taking a gamble, but gambling on ourselves. And obviously we found some speed, and to be up there and racing with somebody like Tanner, who I've grown that respect for, was just, there's no way I could have got out of the car and not walked over and congratulated him and said something.
Well, gentlemen, I think that tells the perfect story and is a perfect lead into our next event this weekend at Colorado National Speedway. Good luck to the both of you, and hopefully we'll see one of you in victory lane.
Yes, sir. I
Appreciate it.
It'll be some good racing. I know that.